another episode of the Creative Spin Podcast. Buckle up, you're in for a show.
Welcome to another Creative Spin Podcast, and once again, we have Penny. What's been happening in the financial world, and see if we can, help the people watching and listening to us. What's been going on since March? Because that was more or less when you were here the last time.
It really was. So, since March, we now have, governments paying people. Mm-hmm. We have countries, including our own, at all-time high deficits. Mm-hmm. We have banks covering people's mortgages and helping them defer them. And we have, governments printing money and, pumping it into the system and buying assets and keeping interest rates low. So that's where we're at.
How much is this going to affect our future when it comes to our finances? Like, are we going to be in deep, in a year or two from now? Or what's your crystal ball say?
My crystal ball. I like practicality. I'm a practical person.
Okay, throw the crystal ball out. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. You got to look at it from a long-term perspective. And yes, short-term, we're still not out of the woods. We're not in recovery mode yet. Right now we're in more of a stabilizing mode. Mm-hmm. So in order to recover, you need to have some kind of stable footing to build off of. So that's what the governments are doing right now is factoring in that level of stability. Mm-hmm. And, within the next year or two, the questions are all going to be, how are we paying this debt back? How are we going to recover? How are we getting certain things under control?
Yeah, because this isn't just an issue here in Canada. We're talking about worldwide, and everyone is affecting everyone in one way or another, right? I'm here thinking now down south to our friends in the States. Obviously their economy affects the world as well. And now not only the issues of the pandemic going around, but the elections that just happened. Mm-hmm. How do you see the States affecting Canada? Like, how much do you think it's going to affect us here?
That's a good question. So, in the U.S., they have, obviously there's a lot of global-based companies in the U.S. Now, when you're looking at it from a market perspective and companies and profitability and, how does that affect our investment portfolios? At the end of the day, it's, governments in general don't typically impact the markets and companies, from a fundamental basis in terms of their long-term profitability, their long-term projections, and how well they can do. That's really driven by, the company's corporate governance, their leadership, their ability to create sustainable revenue and have consumers to buy their products and services. Mm-hmm. So what we look at from a U.S. to Canada perspective is, from a political standpoint, it's, how are these countries viewed? Are they viewed as stable? Can they be trusted? Right? Are we looking at from a global trade perspective? So the world does have its eyes on the U.S. for some of those reasons.
Our borders, right? That's a big concern as well. How are people moving around things, like the exports and imports between the two countries? That has to affect us quite a bit, right?
From a trade, yeah. From a trade perspective, yes. And at this point, they're in the middle of a transition mm-hmm. of power. Whether or not people agree with it or not is something different.
Or probably not. I don't know. It's November 11th when we're recording this, by the way. We don't know what the heck is going on in the world right now. There's all of these situations of recounting votes and it's such a mess. And honestly, I think it's pretty sad that that's happening that way. But we don't know what's going to happen. So by the time this podcast comes out, we just don't know. Or do we?
I think you have to look at it from the perspective of, you need to be confident within yourself and how you're going to navigate with whatever life brings us and whatever political party shows up. So in one way, you know what the last 4 years has been. And so worst case scenario, there's another 4 years of it. On the flip side, you've had the experience of, Vice President and President-elect now Biden with, how he, conducted himself through the Obama era. And he has a long track record of how he's maneuvered within the political world. And that's a positive, right? So at the end of the day, I think people will have a sigh of relief and level of stability if he, in fact, becomes the 46th president of the United States. So
we shall see.
There's a level of stability there. However, that doesn't take away the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's a lot of people that are out of work, don't know how to make ends meet. And there's a lot of work to be done in terms of bringing the economy back to a level of recovery and then really focus on the growth of it. So
how long do you think that the recovery will take for most countries?
That's hard to say because again, we go back to, the stabilizing factor is when there's an effective and easily distributable vaccine.
Yeah.
To protect, the greater part of society. So until that happens, we're in a tunnel. We see a little bit of light, but we're still in the tunnel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you touched on the vaccine, Pfizer.
Yeah.
That's the big news. That was the big news this past week.
The big news for now. And we saw markets have a level of euphoria with that. But again, the markets in general are oversensitive to news, whether it's good or bad. So at the end of the day, we need to have patience. We need to see how things play out. And really, I think a lot more work will be done with understanding what has happened in the last year or even into next year. A few years from now, when you're able to look back at it and really learn from, where the gaps were, how could we do things differently? How can we do things better if there's another, pandemic? So at the end of the day, everyone's just working with what they know. And, at the end, you're also listening to science and listening to the right people to help you navigate through this. So,
but when it comes to the stocks, right? And obviously you said it. It can be kind of crazy at a point, like a news comes out and then all of a sudden the stocks go crazy. Explain to us humble people that don't understand much about finances like me, like myself. How does that all work? Like a news comes out and then all of a sudden you hear all these people talk, oh my God, their stocks went crazy. Like, is that the right time to invest? Should you invest afterwards? Like, explain to me how this all works.
So it's hard to really time the market and focus on what you think you can get out of from a short-term results perspective. So at the end of the day, it is long-term strategy. And, within your asset allocation and then being strategic about how you're moving in and out of certain asset classes, plays a role. But, it's hard to time people's emotions, people's fear, and people's greed. Because at the end of the day, the markets are driven by fear and greed. Long term, you see the sustainability of, long-term growth and prospects if you're doing it in a responsible fashion. But, it's at the end of the day, my colleague, Martin Cobb, he's our equity strategist. And, he'll say, if we ask him in any given day that there's been this market sell-off, we'll go, well, what happened? And he'll say, well, just looks like there was more sellers than buyers today.
Oh, apparently so. And we even had the bell here. I think the markets are closing right now.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's that's not the strategy that you advise people to do, right? To go into the markets and just try to guess things and buy things in a rush. Like, what is the best strategy for someone?
There's no such thing as buying anything in a rush. Because, markets and pricing of companies are always going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's understanding, what your plan is, what your purpose is, what your goal is with the money that you are looking to invest in the market, and identifying what's for a long-term strategy and what you have earmarked for a short-term strategy. So a short-term strategy, meaning you're going to need the money sooner rather than not to purchase something or have for, funding your child's education, or it's a down payment on the house, or renovations coming up. When it's longer term, that's when you want to look at the strategy long term, and will you best participate in the markets, and how would you optimize your portfolio to match what you need it to do for you in the future. So there's work to be done there. And it all comes back to just having the conversation, understanding what your needs, priorities, and goals are, and matching yourself to the right advisor where you're sharing the same values and you're understanding, and you can align yourself with the strategy or philosophy that they have to be able to offer you. And that's, at the end of the day, that's pretty much it.
And
there's
basically no rushing. Let's not rush into anything.
Everyone
right?
Just be patient.
Yeah.
Simmer down.
But you hear that
patient.
a lot. And you hear that a lot. People are, I bought this and I bought that and now I sold. And I think that's and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's such a dangerous game to play, because you might make a buck or two. Mm-hmm. You might get lucky. Yeah. You might, just get lucky and buy stock low and then all of a sudden sell it and all that. But it's not the right way to do things. I think. I don't know. I'm not a gambler. That's why I'm saying that.
Well, and I think, there are people in this world that, day trading is their job. So, 100% of their day is spent researching companies, understanding the markets, and making those plays. However, the important piece is for those day traders is they actually have in mind what their exit strategy is already.
And so it's educated guesses, right? Because they've, like you're saying, like they study the companies and all of that. So it's a little bit more educated than just somebody just going out of a hunch. Let me do this.
Yeah, or my neighbor Joe told me I should buy this stock.
I knew Joe was going to come in. Knew it. He always does. He always pays us a visit here.
He does. Joe. Still on to you, Joe.
What about Joe's interest rates in the houses and all of that? How's that impacting financial situation of people? What do you think?
So it all depends on where you are in your life stage and financially. So if you were overly burdened with debt before the pandemic, you're getting a sigh of relief right now because interest rates are lower. You're getting relief on your minimum payments, on your interest payments, even mortgage payments. My advice to those that are in that boat is take advantage and pay down your debt, and get yourself under control from that perspective. For those that are, looking to purchase now, it's in your favor. However, I would caution that with low interest rates and, easier, your ability to get credit much faster and easier, helps drive up the prices of the things that you want to buy. So for instance, housing. So there's been a long-standing debate with housing of, are we in a bubble? Is it overpriced? Are we going to see some kind of a correction? So you're going to see different pockets in different areas, depending on the demographics and who's suffering, who's not. However, when you keep interest rates low for too long, that is the ultimate effect, is it overinflates the price of certain assets, like real estate.
But in this case, don't you find that more and more people are just afraid to invest right now because of the instability of the world?
So some people are, yes, they're waiting it out because they feel like, the housing market might have a slowdown. Where are we starting to see it in pockets of certain structures like condo buildings, right? Some people, I think this has been their eye-opening experience of maybe I don't want to live in a condensely populated area where
might not be good right now.
So then, you're seeing more of a change of people going to the suburbs or leaving the city in general. These last, what are we on, 9 months, 10 months almost now?
Something
from
like that.
From a pandemic.
Yeah, I've lost count. What day is it today? I don't know.
Every day's the same day, guys. Let's be honest. So more and more people, even from a work perspective, are realizing I don't need to come downtown every day to do my job. I can do it from where I'm at. So there's been a shift, obviously, in lifestyle, work demands, ability to be very flexible with work, and then how about you do your job. So it's different pockets, but at the end of the day, from a fundamental standpoint, and, even during the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, with Janet Yellen, She also had her concerns with, we can't keep interest rates low for too long. It has the ability to create these asset bubbles, these price bubbles.
Gotcha.
So, you know, long standing, there needs to be some kind of, you know, change back to a level of normalcy when it comes to interest rates, the cost of housing, and things of that nature. So, you know, sometimes these are decade-long, you know, corrections or trend or you know, trends. You know, the last meaningful real estate correction we saw was in the early 2000s. So, you know, it's been 20 plus years since then. So, I mean, it's natural to think.
What? It's already been 20 years? What?
Sorry to break it to you, Jamie. Sorry to break it to you, Jamie.
Man, I've been just having
You're
too much
now married
fun.
with a few kids, if you haven't noticed.
Damn. Okay, gotta go. Time flies, you know, and
Yeah.
you don't even notice it. But speaking of which, we're gonna go into a small little. I'm not gonna call it a commercial break, but it's like we're gonna listen to what our sponsor has to say, and then we're gonna come back to a few more questions. How's that? Cool.
Works well.
All right, good stuff. Today's podcast is brought to you by Workplace One, a company offering boutique private offices, co-working spaces, and virtual office solutions, as well as meeting rooms in the best neighborhoods of Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo. Ideal for entrepreneurs, companies, and passionate business people. Workplace One is where you want to be with your business. For more information, go over to workplaceone.com. And a 3 and a 2 and a 1, and we're back again. And we were talking about podcasting while the cameras were off. And let's get away from the whole financial stuff. Well, kind of, sort of. And talk a little bit about podcasting and a little bit about what you've been doing in social media and all that kind of stuff. Because, you know, this is the Creative Spin podcast, and we like to spin those creative, blocks around and talk a little bit about that. You've been kind of playing around with podcasting, not only here in the Creative Spin podcast, but you've also been doing a podcast with Steinberg Wealth.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that. How's that adventure been?
Okay, well, it's actually been a very fascinating and it's been a very enjoyable experience of just, you know, putting on a different hat and, you know, putting together the content and production and directing and some editing with your help, Jamie.
There you go.
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. So for those who don't know, Lawrence Steinberg Wealth Management, we have a podcast. It's more of an audio cast. We don't have video, but it's audio only, and it's called Navigating the Markets. It can be found on any podcast app that you have.
Yep, it's out there.
Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, to name a few. And, we're on our, we just finished recording our 8th episode.
8th episode, yeah.
Yeah. And,
and who's a part of this? Let's drop some names here so that.
Okay. So the usual suspects are Liam Card, our SVP. He's typically our the main, host, if you will, or mediator.
I guess he would be the host, yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. I think we're not in the show business side of things, obviously. So I think we don't like getting too caught up on titles.
Well, no, I think Liam is the host because, he's the one directing.
He's the moderator.
Yeah, he's the moderator.
The host moderator.
I believe that if you were in a setting like this, he would be the one starting off the conversation and all of that.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? But you guys are actually doing something a little bit different with the recording. But keep going with the name drops.
Okay,
keep going,
the name drops. The usuals. Are obviously Lawrence Steinberg, our president, and Martin Cobb, our SVP and strategist for equities, and as well as Phil Armstrong, who's our fixed income bond portfolio manager. So we typically have and we record, every month we cover off one of our strategies, what it's done for the quarter, what our outlook is, and some tips on how you could use some of those ideas or position your own portfolio from that regard. I myself have had my own with the company with we called it. I think the title of it was Can I Retire? So it was myself and my colleague Dan Thompson, and we spoke about just the main concerns with people that are at or near retirement, and how to help them navigate through.
And what I find interesting with how you actually record the shows is that, and this comes to prove people that are might be thinking about starting their own podcast that, I don't have the equipment, or I don't have the studio, or you can just start it. Once you have the right information that you want to put out to the world, just start the podcast. You guys, started this basically in the middle of a pandemic.
We did.
But you're all recording it on your ends, and then you end up putting everything together, and it's been working great.
It's been working well, and we all hop on Zoom.
Yeah.
And we hit record and away we go.
All right. So, is it getting easier?
I feel like it is. I think we all are getting into a rhythm and a groove of things, and format is key. So I think it takes a few rounds about it to really get a set format, and everyone kind of knows their role and when they need to kick into high gear.
Well, what's been the more interesting part of the whole podcasting experience?
Editing. It's been interesting. Editing has been interesting. Yes.
Yeah. And it is because your podcast, there's a lot of information that needs to be very correct. You're talking about stock markets, and you're talking about all this stuff. So you really need to be paying attention. Not like what we do here at Creative Spin. I mean, we're just going with the flow. So the editing on my end is actually a little bit less when it comes to that. I actually like to leave things as they are, because that's how I roll. But this is great to showcase how different podcasts can be. You can be a more edited, more, making sure that all the dots are there and everything is right. Or you can do something like I do and just start talking to someone and just have that conversation and see where it goes. And now you're actually thinking about doing your own.
I am, yeah. So
this is going to be so good.
Well, I just I believe in not only I have great conversations with my clients and even prospects that make the choice after whether or not they actually want to move forward with me. But there's some good conversations to be had, and I find just a lot of people come in with the same concerns. And, it doesn't matter if you've got, a few dollars in the bank or quite a few dollars in the bank. There's different levels of complexity, obviously, with what you've got going on. But at the end of the day, there's certain fundamentals that I think, should be shared. And it doesn't mean that, if you don't have a certain level of wealth, you can't have access to, the basic recommendations and just things to think about when it comes to total wealth, planning ideas and really understanding where you are in your specific life cycle and level of wealth, and maybe help you, just help you focus in on certain priorities that you should be thinking about, if not already.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely a need for more information when it comes to that. I think most people, like myself, I'm a graphic designer. I finances isn't my thing. I know how to, create the projects, make money. And I know that, the basic stuff. If there's enough money in the bank, I'm happy, that kind of thing. Now, I don't know exactly all the details of where I should be investing and how I should be investing. And this is where, it's great to be able to listen to a podcast and get that information. And then, if you have your own questions, because everything is, everybody's life is very different, and every detail is very different, then you can reach out to whoever's doing the podcast and find out a little bit more information if it's possible, right? But you've also, I've noticed that you've been actually developing a lot of your branding for yourself as well. And how's that been, like creating your website and now getting all your social media going? And how has that been? And has it been fun? Has it been interesting? Has it been a headache? What's your perspective on all this?
I laugh because I've already cried.
Oh boy.
No, it's been a great creative outlet, because I just find I don't want to be one dimensional where I only focus on the planning or the portfolio management, and just have some kind of boilerplate kind of ad or branding to it. Like, to me, it's very important to really, project who I am, through my messaging, through my branding. And I've become very, very, I think more just directive on that. And I like it. It makes me feel better. It makes me feel like, wow, I'm really showing my true self to the world, and hoping I connect with the right people that are drawn to those certain attributes and aspects of, the kind of person they also want to speak with, and trust that their money is being handled in a responsible fashion, and looking for a long-term relationship out of it.
And you're absolutely doing it the right way, because you basically want to put out what you want to attract as well. So if you're putting out that type of information, you're going to get the person that wants the specific information you're putting out. What has been like a few of the tips and tricks that you can put out there for us? Because, one of them, I'm actually going to bring one of them up, because it was, we actually grabbed your example to do one of our podcasts, which was the photography part.
Yes.
So on one of our podcasts, we were talking about how important it is to be ready for a photo shoot, or to even think about a photo shoot, which is something that I know that for me and you might be, yeah, of course you have to do a photo shoot, but most people don't even think about that. They go with the flow. Which can work. For some people it works.
So they go with the flow, or they use stock photos. Please stop using stock photos. Please.
It's one of those
or
things.
Hey, keep doing it. That's fine.
If it's working for you, just keep going. But you decided to, no, I'm not going to go with the stock photography thing, because you might look like everybody else out there.
I just find that it's impersonal.
Yeah. And you decided to, to get a couple of photo shoots, actually with Alex, one of the photographers that has been here as well in the creative.
It's fantastic. Well, and I will say, you do your research and, gather the right people to be on your team, right? To make, and have a vision. At the end of the day, it starts with having a vision. Even if your vision is a little spotty, but you kind of know where the end game is. Yeah. Someone like Alex, someone like you can help, fill in some of those blanks and help you just create that vision.
But you did an amazing job in terms of being prepared for that photo shoot, which I was like impressed. I was impressed. Like,
let's not disclose all the outfits I brought that day, or shoes. Or shoes.
But you came prepared, and that's great. I've been at other photo shoots where the person comes in with whatever they're wearing, and that's it. The problem with that is that now you're going to have 100 pictures of the same outfit over and over and over again. But if that's your thing and you want to roll that way, so be it. I wouldn't advise you to do that. But you did the right thing, and I commend you for that. Very good job, Penny. How was that experience, though?
You know what? I really loved it. Again, taking directives from Alex and from yourself as well, because again, this is very much a learning and growth curve for me as well, not ever being part of that side. But I think, there's a level of doing what feels right, having some common sense. And again, really, to me, I felt every time I finish a photo shoot, or, I don't know, sometimes with podcasts with you, I walk away feeling like, I don't know if I did it justice. And then I hear it back and I go, oh, okay, she's a smart lady. Should probably listen to her.
That. She actually said a couple of things there that were okay.
But no, I always feel, satisfied and complete once we've finished, because I've been able to express what I wanted to do on the creative side, and being able to capture those certain shots, and you guys play ball and you go, okay, let's do this. All right, let's put it up. Let's set it up this way. Let's do it this way. So to me, it's very important just to capture everything that you want out of it. Yeah. And then you have obviously lots of options. Yeah. Right.
And for you afterwards, once you get those images back, and now you have that raw material that you can go, okay, now I can start posting things. I can start being creative. I've seen you being creative with like all of these animations that you're putting on.
Yeah.
How's that been with finding apps that work for you?
Trial and error.
Is it? Yeah.
You do have to invest some time with the whole trial and error, but there's surprisingly very cheap to free apps out there.
There's a lot of free apps out there that can do a lot of cool things.
Do that, yeah. And so it's but
you touched on one thing: investing time.
Investing time.
Yeah, and I think a
be
lot
creative,
of people
don't be afraid.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's quick and easy. It will become quick and easy once you learn.
Yeah.
How to get all this stuff done, and you have things in place already. You have your apps in place, and you have all of that, but you have to invest quite a bit of time. And this is one of the things I keep telling my clients is that, stop for that 1 hour and just try to see, or at least go see what other people are doing in your field and see what they're doing, and then trying to figure that out. It's so important to do that.
Yeah.
Especially in today's world where, we have a ton of different ways of promoting ourselves, but guess what? All of those ways are available to everybody. So
exactly.
You're in that one game and one field that you need to really try to promote yourself better and stand out from the crowd. And I think doing what you did, hiring a professional to do your pictures, getting a nice website done, trying to promote yourself the way you've envisioned it, I think that's the most important part. And I think hopefully people will listen to that and follow your footsteps.
Well, and I know, and especially within the finance field and financial world, I mean, many people get intimidated with certain advertisements, or again, when there's use of stock photos, and they kind of think, oh, great, now I'm walking into this shell of a company, and I'm not really sure who I'm going to speak to, or So my branding is very much focused on what you see is what you get.
Yeah, and showcasing a
so
face.
There's
someone is there, right?
There's no guesswork. There shouldn't be any kind of intimidation to wanting to reach out to me. I'm no different on camera now as I'm here than I am if you were going to pick up the phone over the phone.
I'm going to hide the camera, and then you guys, I'm going to post it after the video. No, but kudos to you. I think you're doing a good job. I think you're gonna be bringing a lot to the table when it comes to the social media side of the financial things of the world. So we'll be here to see what you're doing and to comment here on the Creative Spin podcast and to cover all those things.
Excellent.
Penny, thank you so much for being here once again. And it won't be the last time.
Thanks for
You're
having
becoming
me.
one of our
I'll see
regular
you later.
guests.
I'll see you later, Jamie.
And then hopefully we can go to your podcast and say, hey, I don't know anything about financial adventures, so can you help me?
We could almost do like a...
I'm inviting myself. Did you guys see that? That's promotion.
That?
That's marketing right there. You guys have to
We can talk about how you can maximize tax-free strategies, Jamie. I feel like there's an opportunity.
There's something there. Anything else you want to add to this podcast?
I
think we covered everything today, didn't we?
No, just check me out at www.pbtotalwealth.com. My social media handles are at pbtotalwealth, and you can check out my YouTube channel, PB Total Wealth.
And I'm gonna do the YouTuber thing. Go check the description below and
subscribe.
We'll have all of those links there for you guys to click and research and see what Penny is doing. And I'll have the camera shots that will be up there. All right, thank you, and I will catch you on the next one.